Yo, what's up everyone? Welcome back, Jamie here today. I'm going to be talking about the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which was released in 1974 and directed by Tobe Hooper. This film, so gritty, man. It's a classic for a reason. I got maybe a Mankind slash Chainsaw Massacre t-shirt on right now. But it's, seriously, I've not watched it in a few years. I watched it back and it still holds up today. It's so gritty, and just the way it's directed as well by Tobe Hooper. Like, some of these shots really stand out, especially like when the hitchhiker's being picked up from the van, and like most of like the zoom outs to like, you know, show the dramatic tension of the scenes. It's a really good film, and hardly any blood as well. Like, a lot of people, especially when it came out, saying like it's really scary, and like I said, it still is, but from the reputation alone, you think there'll be a lot more blood, but there's not really that much blood in it. Yeah, it starts with those iconic screech sounds. What we're all used to. It's like a light bulb thing, and they use it throughout the series, but this is where it originally started. And we see bodies like being put on graves, and there's news reports of it being missing bodies being dug up around the area. From there we get the title sequence, and you can tell this is where Rob Zombie got his influence from, no doubt. Rob Zombie remade Halloween. I wonder what he would have done with Texas Chainsaw, because you can tell like even his films follow the same template, different characters but same situations. But from there we get the van pulling over. We get introduced to our characters. Franklin first, who's just had a wheelchair. He has to get out the van to take a piss, and he just ends up falling down the hill. Like, this film's sort of a dark comedy in a way, especially later on. Like, if you're into like dark comedy, you might find yourself laughing at some of the stuff that happens. Obviously, it's terrifying, you know. No one would want to go through this in real life, but especially like in part 2, you can tell it gets more of a comedy. Like I said, we got the 5 main characters. Really, all that matters is Sally and her brother Franklin inside the wheelchair. The rest of them are just, you know, they're just there to die, basically. There's not much to them, really, but there's 5 overall. They're going on the way to the old family estate inside Texas, and they decide to pick up this hitchhiker on the road. And like I said before, it's a really nice shot of him. Like, it's a wide shot of the van and him slowly getting inside the van. Like, there's quite a few of that throughout this film. The visuals are good, no doubt. The set design as well. Like, for a low-budget film, it's got a lot going for it. It's got a certain mystique and charm to it, man. Like, other films can't really replicate it. It feels like you're watching an actual like real life events in a way. So yeah, he's inside there and he starts showing them like photos of animals that he's killed at the slaughterhouse. And you can tell this guy, you know, there's something off about him, no doubt. He gets Franklin's knife off him and he starts cutting his own hand in front of him. And that starts freaking him out, obviously. Then he pulls out his Polaroid camera out of nowhere and just snaps a photo of him. And he charges him, he's like, give me $2 for the photo. They're like, no, mate, we're not paying you for that. So at this point, he gets, I guess it's gunpowder or something out of his pocket. And he sets fire to the photo, and that's like an omen of sign of things to come, really. In a way, you could say this is where he cursed them to die. And he leaves like a mark as well, because obviously they kick him out the van. He leaves a blood mark on the van. So you could look at it in a way like this is him marking them for death. From there, they stop at a gas station, and we're introduced to Drayton Sawyer, who's like the owner of the gas station in a way. But he seems normal. Like, is this your first time watching it? You're like, okay, this guy, you know, not much about him. He's just telling him like, you know, stay out of trouble and stuff. He seems normal. That goes out the window later on. They arrive at the house and like they all go upstairs and they leave Franklin downstairs. And like you can tell like they're supposed to be laughing or whatever, but it sounds like they're crying. They're all upstairs like having fun, but the way they're laughing, I don't know, to me it sounded like they were crying. And they leave poor Franklin downstairs and he's being a bit annoying, but in a way you feel sorry for him because he's just had a wheelchair. They forced him to come along and then they just fuck off upstairs and leave him downstairs. This place isn't wheelchair accessible. So, you know, he's having a little tantrum, like taking a piss out of him and stuff. But again, why bring him along if you're not going to help him? Like, I don't understand that logic in a way. From there, we get 2 of the characters who wander onto the Sawyer house, and one of them just goes inside the house, leaving the other one outside. Goes towards the end of the house. Leatherface just appears out of nowhere, smacks him on the head with a hammer. The guy's twitching on the floor, and you get an iconic shot of him just slamming the door behind him as he drags him in. So good, man. Like, this is our first shot, really, of Gunnar Hansen playing Leatherface. And like I said, for a low-budget film, like, the mask looks really detailed. Even the background, the set design, you got all, like, the animal skulls and stuff in the back on the red wall. Iconic stuff, man. Iconic stuff. So from there, the other character is left outside. She goes inside the house and she finds all these objects made out of bones. When she falls over, decides to, you know, just get the fuck out of there. She runs out the house and you get the other iconic shot, Leatherface grabbing her back in and pulling her back inside. From there, he puts her straight onto a hook, and this is obviously where Dead by Daylight got their influence from. Survivor on a hook, and she's on the hook while he starts sawing, using the chainsaw to cut her boyfriend up right in front of her. Graphic stuff, but again, you don't really see that much blood. But still, it's definitely scary, no doubt, and it still holds up to this day. So from there, Sally's boyfriend goes to the house looking for them too. He goes inside the house and he finds the corpse of the girl, And then Leatherface just starts freaking out. He hits the guy over the head with a hammer and he starts freaking out. And you can tell that Leatherface, he's got like special needs or something. I think Gunnar Hansen went to a school of special needs to try and play him like that as well. Like, you can tell, like, his family forces into... You feel sorry for Leatherface inside this film in a way. He's misunderstood, you know. There's something clearly wrong with him. And they're taking advantage of that and making him kill. But he also, in a way, enjoys it. I'm sure he does. But you get out of a shot of him sat down with his hands inside his head and he's licking his teeth. You see all his teeth. It's disgusting stuff, but again, like, it goes to show you he's not just a killing machine. Like, he has emotion. He's got a human side to it. And it starts turning tonight. The final two characters are Sally and her brother Franklin. And Franklin won't give her a flashlight because she wants to go and look. And he's like, I'll go with you. I'll go with you. You know, some people find him annoying and I can understand why. But at the same time, the guy's inside a wheelchair, man. Why would you bring him out on this road trip? Like... I don't know. Yeah, but from there we get Bubba catching up to him and he just chainsaws right into Franklin. Obviously Franklin can't go anywhere. Sally has to start running. She runs back to the house. She goes upstairs and she finds these two old people inside the chairs, Grandpa and Grandma. And you're thinking, what, are these guys alive or what? But eventually we find out Grandpa is alive. He's got to be at least 100 years old. He's still alive. So from there, Bubba chases upstairs and she just jumps through the window straight to the bottom. She likes jumping through windows, Sally, man, I gotta say. But yeah, she escapes at that point, but obviously Bubba comes back down and comes after her. So from there, she runs to the gas station from before where Drayton was, and he, like, you know, comforts her. He's like, it's okay, I'll take care of you. I'm just gonna go and get my truck. Comes back in and he's got like a sack and rope with him, and he's like, oh, just get inside the sack. And you can tell at this point, he flips, he goes from good to evil, and you're like, wait a minute, what the fuck? And he starts beating her up with the broom. He ends up knocking her out with it as well. It's like, what the fuck? So then he ties her up. And he starts taking her back to the house. He sees the hitchhiker on the way. He gets out, he starts beating him up as well. Like, why'd you leave your brother alone? And then they get to the house, and before Leatherface chainsawed down the door, he's like, look what your brother did to the door. Like I said, man, there's some dark comedy bits inside this film. But now Leatherface has a new mask on, a new face, whatever you want to call it. And he comes in straight and he just starts beating him up as well. And Leatherface doesn't speak, but he makes noises like grunts and stuff like a pig. But he does communicate that way. But then he tells him to bring Grandpa down, so they bring him down inside the chair, and he looks old as fuck. Cuts Sally's finger and he starts licking it, and you're like, oh my days. And he's moving his hands like he's dancing or something, man. It's weird. It's definitely weird. From there, she passes out from, like, you know, the traumatic experience, and she wakes up at the dinner table tied up, and they all start taunting her, and you get like the close-ups of her eyes that she's going insane. There's a lot of screaming inside this, man, but like, you can tell it shows how she's, like, you know, falling into insanity. Like, there was long shoots as well in the film, in the movie. It was like 20 hours in, like, environment of Texas. Like, you can tell, man. Like, you feel like you're going insane a little bit just watching this as well. And then they decide, oh, let's get Grandpa to kill. So they drag her over to the bucket on the floor, and Leatherface is giving Grandpa the hammer, and he's barely got any strength, so he just keeps barely swinging and missing. Imagine what she's feeling. She's being held over, and each time this hammer's coming, you're like, is this gonna hit me? And this old bastard just keeps dropping it. But this eventually allows her to escape. She runs and she jumps through another window. But at this point, like, you know, she's limping and stuff, and the hitchhiker's running after her, and he keeps slicing her inside the back. And here comes Bubba with his tuxedo on, the chainsaw chasing after him as well. Eventually she gets to a main road and this truck comes, and the hitchhiker gets hit by the truck, so he's dead. And then Bubba starts chainsawing on the guy's truck. They get out of the truck and they run round. The guy sees Bubba and he immediately just turns back and runs the other way. He's getting the fuck out of there. He's gone. He's gone. But before he goes, he throws a wrench at Bubba, which knocks him on the floor. And the chainsaw starts cutting into his own leg. So now Bubba's, you know, handicapped going there, so you can't really chase after him. Another car arrives. Sally just jumps in the back, and you get an iconic shot of her just driving away while she's, like, laughing. She's laughing like they did at the dinner table. Like, you can tell, like, this has really fucked her up. And the film ends with Bubba at the sunrise, just chainsawing his chainsaw away, having a little tantrum. Iconic stuff, man, no doubt. Overall rating of this film, it still holds up. It still really holds up. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Like, the only bad thing about it, some parts, like, there's little dull moments now and then, but it doesn't really drag. Like, the set design's really good. For what he accomplished on a low budget, man, it's really, really good. Like, especially, like, some of the way it's just one shot, like, characters talking, you feel like you're watching an actual, like, snuff film or something. Like, this is real shit. But yeah, make sure you like and subscribe. Here's Quincy. Next, we'll probably do Texas Chainsaw 2 and then the remakes. We're not going to be doing all the films inside the series because there's, like, 7, and the continuity is all over the place. But yeah, make sure you like and subscribe if you're new. Until next time, peace out, and a bit.